I'm Jassim Isa, CEO and founder of Adare, an Amazon e-commerce business that generated over $50 million in sales last year. In today's video, I'm sharing our experience on implementing an ERP system. Whether you're considering an ERP for your business or about to start implementing one, I'll walk you through the thought process, the steps we're taking, the lessons we've learned so far. Choosing the right ERP is one thing, but the implementation process itself can be a game changer or a nightmare if not handled correctly. We've selected our implementation partner in the ERP system, and now we're preparing to embark on the implementation process itself. As we've scaled, it became clear that we needed a centralized system to manage our operations more efficiently. Inventory, financials, project management, and sales all needed to be streamlined. After spending around 6 months, hundreds of hours, if not even more, and thousands of dollars researching ERPs and learning about them and their applicability to our e-commerce business, I'm here to share our findings with you. Today, I'll walk you through where we are in the process, the steps we're taking before implementation, and some key lessons we've learned from other companies and consultants that went through this process as we were continuing to research. The first thing I wanted to start with is why we decided to implement an ERP, just some context. It's mainly due to our business growth and complexity. As our business has grown significantly, and with growth obviously comes complexity, we're managing inventory across multiple warehouses and sales platforms like marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Walmart, amongst other ones. And it was getting hard to track everything accurately and in real time. We had to manually adjust things, and sometimes wouldn't work because the processes and systems were beginning to break and get lost. Our revenue divisions also grew. We went from just selling a couple hundred SKUs from one source to now having numerous sources, numerous divisions, and it's just harder to align things. You can Google Sheets and Excel sometimes break, and they can only go so far, to now having like dozens of different vendors, different reps, dealing with them at different points, and things that were getting lost in translation, and the ball was being dropped often. We also had inventory and cash leakages that were not attributed for. We had, like, for example, theft at our warehouses that we detected months later just through camera, or even over or underpaying vendors or contractors, and also inventory not being tracked at the right cost, or we're under accounting for how much it costs, over accounting because we get like, oh, this was with duties, this was without duties, and communication would get lost. So we needed more organization there. We've had many cases where even inventory inaccuracies led to overselling, stockouts, fulfillment delays. We've also had issues where we overpaid vendors due to poor communication and a lack of system interoperability. But basically, where the different processes are speaking to each other, it's like it was broken, different modules. And like, just as an example, one stakeholder assumed that a shipment had arrived but failed to communicate this clearly to the next person in the process. As a result, the shipment was mistakenly marked as received and paid for, even though it hadn't been properly confirmed. That's when we realized we needed a centralized system that could give us like a full picture of our operations, among many other parts, but it was just the communication was getting lost and we had issues. The other thing is like financial oversight and just holistic data visualization in general. We wanted more visibility into what was happening on a P&L basis. Current system of tracking expenses and revenue worked well when we were smaller, but now we need more detailed, line by line, and also live, accurate financial reporting to even manage cash flow and profitability across different channels, across many divisions and SKUs, to know what everything looks like. And having many data sources was just getting very difficult. Like before, we had to look at Amazon for our sales. Now we have to look at Amazon, Walmart for our sales. And we want a holistic view of what our sales are. Ideally, you'd get that in ERP. You can only do so many VLOOKUPs before you go crazy. You also need that enhanced visibility for better decision-making process and quicker decision-making process, and more accurate, just as you see more things. The second thing that I wanted to get into was how we chose the ERP, the process behind that, the mentality we had. The first thing that I did was implement, and we had an implementation timeline and requirements paper, and these two key documents, they guided us through the process. One of them detailing the specific requirements we needed from the ERP, and the other one was focused on the budget and the timeline projections. Our requirements outlined central modules like inventory management, financial systems, and also included important integrations that we needed that were required for us, such as Amazon, of course, other data sources, and features like multi-entity management. So the ERP that we're choosing had to have multi-entity management since we operate multiple organizations. The budget document helped us stay within the financial limits, of course. While the timeline was crucial for us to manage the project internally, the implementation partner is generally responsible for creating the timeline, but we had like a general idea, like this month we wanted that, month two we wanted this, month three. So for example, we gave to a partner and he had a 30-month timeline, we have a 6 to 12-month timeline, so it wouldn't work out. So that was just, we had a general timeline and general budget they want to stay within. And we also like asking vendors, like, how do we come up with this timeline? We asking vendors countless questions helps establish solid timelines, reading, watching YouTube videos, and basically it helps also prioritize our needs for both implementation and transition phases. But these documents, the requirements and implementation document, preparing them, we were able to quickly gather RFPs and quotes from different vendors, which not only helped us screen potential vendors, but also clarified what we needed from the ERP solution. Like, even let me get clear with what we want. Do we need, for example, manufacturing? No, we don't need manufacturing because we don't manufacture in our business. Narrowing thousands of options into just a couple handful relevant ones. Otherwise, we would have spent decades looking through everything. Evaluating the ERP options. We began exploring different ERP systems through various resources like YouTube, Google, business articles. With hundreds of ERP systems available and many companies offering services to help you choose the right one, the options were overwhelming. Even within a single company, like for example Microsoft, you assume that's an ERP, but not really. There are multiple solutions within that. Like, you have finance and operations, then you have Business Central. Even Business Central, there's Business Central with manufacturing and the different modules within that. And then you have different implementation partners that have specific customizations for Business Central. So it's really a myriad of countless options. Our goal was to find an ERP system that would seamlessly integrate with our current e-commerce platform, align with our processes, and provide real-time data across inventory, financials, and sales. And that obviously was already outlined in our requirement document. The key factors that influenced our choice were integration, capabilities, scalability, and cost that match our business requirement, budget, and timeline. We ended up narrowing it down to 3 choices that we felt were like the best fit for us. It was basically between Microsoft Business Central, NetSuite, and Odoo. They stood out because I felt they integrated well with e-commerce, offer high-level customization, and they allowed us to start with core modules. I felt that these 3 options were most aligned, and I'll get into it later which one we chose. Choosing a vendor / implementation partner. So this is the next part of it. So you have obviously the first part is choosing the system, but then you also have to choose the person that's going to help you implement that system. It's really hard to do it on your own just because there's sometimes even development that goes into it, especially when you have a lot of transition that's going along. So once we selected the ERP, the next step was choosing the right implementation partner that offers a solution for that ERP. We interviewed dozens, if not hundreds, of vendors to find one that understood both our technical needs and our industry specific requirements. We wanted a vendor basically that had like e-commerce experience, particularly those working with Amazon sellers, ideally, because that's where most of our business is from. We also made sure that it was someone that would adapt to our requirements rather than try to fit us into a box like canned solution. We also looked for strong post-implementation support. I mean, we're undergoing a digital transformation at the same time as we're doing this, so we needed support after that. That was someone that's going to be a partner, not just kind of one and done and get out of the way. We wanted to make sure the incentives were aligned with ours. And the last thing I wanted to talk about on a high level is the lessons we've learned along the way. The first thing is the complexity and time investment of an ERP system. ERP implementations are often more complex and more time consuming than expected. Many businesses, including ourselves, we underestimated the amount of time and money for a proper implementation. Based on like the complexity of your business and the number of modules required, the most accurate, like the ones I found that most accurate based on like speaking to different quotes, getting all that stuff, we saw that around 1 to 3% of annual revenue and can take 6 to 18 months. There's also you have to make sure that you differentiate between implementation costs, which are usually one time, and then there's license costs, the cost of the program itself. So there's 2 big costs that go into this. We received a variance of quotes, and we even got some up to $200K for implementation and $60K for licenses. I'll share later more details on like how much we were able to pay. But just to avoid disruptions, we've built extra time into our implementation timeline to account for unexpected delays and learning curves. We also refined our requirements to ensure like we have realistic costs and timeline for the implementation. We've also ensured that our vendor provides ongoing support during and after the implementation, as I mentioned before. The second thing is don't get fancy. One of the biggest things we learned is also ERPs, they offer a lot of flexibility. But usually if you're a quote unquote smaller business and ERPs like all businesses, larger businesses, obviously are using some sort of ERP. The features could support $1 billion businesses, but if you're under that, like if you're within, let's say 300 million, you don't need all those customization. You don't need all those features. They're going to drive up costs unnecessarily. They're going to drive up time unnecessarily. And by sticking to the basics, you can avoid scope creep. It's like ensure smoother, more effective rollout, and something that you're actually going to implement. And something that we didn't want, we wanted to start with something basics. Even like if we're at a smaller stage, ERP system could just be a QuickBooks along with inventory management, and that could suffice. So don't feel the need to get fancy and use all the features. Just use the things that you need. That's what we looked at it, and that's how we, like, especially after getting higher quotes, we started stripping it down, making it simple. The third biggest thing we learned is data integrity and cleanup. One of the biggest pitfalls during ERP implementation is migrating dirty or disorganized data. I mean, you heard the saying garbage in, garbage out. I mean, that's what it is. If you don't clean up your data beforehand, it can lead to inaccurate inventory levels, and you're going to have just a big mess. So just do an audit when you're implementing the data, make sure it's right. And speaking to industry experts, like, we learned that a lot of vendors, they request demo calls or they do it for free. So just talk to them, learn from them, get quotes, see what the industry is there. Like, this is a big decision, not only on the process wise, but budget wise. It's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. And then also it's going to take months up to years to implement this and go through it. So take your time, speak to people. Learning is a lot of it for free. You can even speak to consultants for a couple $100. It's worth it. For us, we learned so much. And basically where we're at today, how we're moving forward with this ERP implementation, is we're going to start with the basics. As I mentioned, we're going to start with the modules that we need the most, the inventory and finance modules. Then we're going to get into CRM. We're going to get into the other ones. We're starting with the basic ones. We're also making sure we have the change management in there. So making sure that we have new SOPs, the people know what's ahead, what's coming to them. And then also the system that finally we're going to get into the system that we chose. We chose the Odoo. And the reason that I chose, based on our requirements and budget, we found that Odoo is the best fit. Although Business Central is actually a pretty close second. We felt it was very flexible and able to fit our needs, while also being felt that Odoo is very familiar with the e-commerce, retail, and distribution world that we're obviously operating in. We like the customization it offers, along with the budget-friendly and modular approach, where we can you can add the modules you need. It's all one price. We like that. It has many different modules, which allows it to be interoperable for the business. So it all kind of speaks to each other, basically. And just making sure that we have those post-implementation support, measuring our success, implementing each module, also having KPIs for like reduction in stockouts, improved financial accuracy, making sure that we had a successful implementation, because it's continuous optimization. ERP isn't a set it and forget it tool. We're already planning to continue to optimize the system as it grows, adding new modules, as I mentioned, tweaking workflows, refining SOPs, working through all that kind of stuff. So working with the team, making sure that they also use it, because the ERP is only as valuable as the data that's in it. So if we're not feeding it the right data, it's not going to give us the right data out. So it's just making sure that everyone's on board for this. That's why we had that change management and pushing through to get that ahead. If you found this insight into our ERP journey helpful, make sure you follow along as we document our implementation process and share more what we had to go through to make the ERP work for our business. If you're in the middle of choosing an ERP or implementing one, leave a comment below with your thoughts or questions. I'd love to hear your experience and help however I can.